conference, many of us, and I should give a disclaimer. I'm trained in educational research and social sciences, so this is my first project with humanities. I am sharing a perspective, or offering a perspective from the case study in Cameroon, which is Cameroon's oldest bilingual university, which is called University of Yaoundé I. So let me give you some insight to the title. UNIYAO I is not a real place. And this phrase comes from, that's beginning the introduction. Yeah, this one, thank you. This phrase, University of Yaoundé I is not a real place, is adapted from a popular internet expression, or expressions like Atlanta is not a real place, or Nigeria is not a real place. Obviously, this is not meant literally. They are from memes. You might have seen them on Twitter or Reddit or whatever. And they're said tongue-in-cheek, kind of to capture the surrealism or unpredictability of these places or of certain contexts. What typically happens is you see something strange or dysfunctional. Yeah, this is not a real place. So these expressions have a way of reminding me of a popular Cameroonian phrase, which you will see there by Richard Bona, one of our famous musicians. And il dit que si quelqu'un t'explique vous explique le Cameroun et tu comprends, c'est-à-dire qu'on n'a pas bien expliqué, basically to say this place is really absurd. And I have thought of these phrases since the start of the research as, like I said, this is my first venture into humanities research, and I was trying to capture the complexity of the creative lives of African University, right? The complexity of it. And basically the improv nature of the place. And these phrases have spurred me, and our theoretical framework or background has spurred me to look for the right framing, theoretical framings, and the right methods to not only look for creative lives, but also make the research creative, the process. So in doing so, I tried to look for the right theoretical framing, right conceptual lens. And research assistant of mine, Valentine, encouraged me to look into Auger's framing of place. Marc Auger, hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, whose theories offer a useful humanities lens into space and place. While reading Auger, I also encountered the related work of Michel Rousseau. Both French thinkers explore how humans relate with space and offer conceptualizations of spatiality, which has helped me make sense of my findings at University of Yaoundé I. As you can see from the definitions I put up there, for Auger, a lieu is a relational, historical, meaningful place, a space where identities form, social bonds are formed. And in contrast, a non-lieu is a transient space, impersonal, abrupt, like airports and hotel lobbies. So spaces we pass through without really transforming them or them transforming us. And Michel Rousseau offers another aspect more recently. His work he offers the concept of hyperlieu, a dense symbolic space where the global and the local converge, the personal and the political converge. And these highly charged local spaces function as arenas of contestation and overlap, like a mall being both a consumer area and an entertainment area. And so these three concepts have made me think of, as I did walking interviews around the university and I tried to capture the university institutional life of University of Yaoundé I. And I feel like each of them, University of Yaoundé I captures each of them, or is both a place, a lieu, non-lieu, and hyperlieu. And And with this presentation, that's what I'm trying to illustrate or demonstrate how the university is all three and offer you a different perspective as well. So, this is an example of University of Yaoundé I as a place that changes you. Despite its dysfunction, many students and alumni describe University of Yaoundé I as deeply formative for them, or their time there as deeply formative. And they will tell you, as I'm sure many university students will, that I came here young, fresh, naive, and I left changed, a bit more open-minded, a lot less naive, weathered, and self-aware, confident because of my experience there. So even with the limited infrastructure and all the quality education issues that I will see with educational research lens, but from the humanities perspective, you can see the transformation that happens here and what makes this a place. You see on the screen some examples, the words of alumni, and how reflecting on how the university shaped both your individual identity and collective consciousness. You'll see one of the alumni saying this was a place where he got to know of other Cameroonian tribal cultural perspective because, like I said, this is the oldest university in the country, and it was sort of a melting pot. For Cameroon is very diverse. It's called the melting pot of Africa, so this is where everybody converges from all the different regions across linguistic lines and across very different ethnic groups. So he told me, this is the first time I'm meeting somebody from the East region, and because I made friends with the person, I got to go to that region when his father passed away to condole with him. Someone else will say, this was a place where I got to see, by staying in the cité on campus, the university housing, that, well, we're not that different, even though everybody makes like we are. Because I've lived with somebody from the north, I got to see that we all have the same problems, or similar problems. We're just speaking different languages. And you'll see also a lecturer who was a former student telling you how the university changed him and how his experience there came a bit hopeful, and the apathy that he has developed as a result of being there so long. Basically how the gradual emotional fatigue and the draining that has developed professional and ideological apathy. This is the place dimension, right? And shows how the university leaves a mark on people. But University of Yaoundé I is also in Onlieu, a place that people pass through. Now on the screen you'll see newspaper clippings and an image of a book one of our participatory action researchers, our co-researchers, student co-researchers currently at the university, wrote Life in the Jungle of Toa, which is basically a play on the nickname that is given to the University of Yaoundé I, Ngwa. We see that the University of Yaoundé I often feels impersonal, like machinery than community. Students frequently describe the place as an obstacle course that they have to complete and get through rather than a space for belonging. We're just here so we get our degree and hopefully get somewhere better. And it's like a jungle, they say, and describing it as an ecosystem of hustle rather than somewhere that they are by choice and somewhere that they are living and experiencing. It's often somewhere that's a stepping stone for them to go elsewhere. And there is nowhere that I would say the aspect of non-lieu applies more than the offices of university staff. Universities in Cameroon, state universities, are controlled by the Ministry of Higher Education. The Ministry of Higher Education is controlled by the presidency. So it's kind of like a trickle down of political will. Who gets to be chancellor, who gets to be dean. It's not really like an academic community. So the appointments are made at 5 p.m. and you could be a dean at 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. and you're no longer dean at 6 p.m. So people rarely actually decorate their offices. You see the president's picture up there. It's kind of somewhere that they pass through. So you won't walk into an office and see like someone's certificates. You might see an academic robe that they use once in a while on graduation. Actually, the University of Yaoundé I doesn't have a graduation ceremony. So it gets more impersonal. And the newspaper clippings show examples of the political nature that makes it a pass-through place. How nominations are made, or basically how the campus, the staff actually have to vie for political favor by supporting the president. But again, we see nature of University of Yaoundé I being hypernear as the first university of the country and the first bilingual university, and this point of convergence of so many different identities. This is the place where you see everything from the local dances being represented, because there are people from literally every region there. And you'll see also the modernization of it, the university trying to fit into globalization and make itself digital. It's also the place where you'll see the fields, football fields, which are spaces for the university campus to population to do sports, but also open to the community around it, because that land was belonging to that community, that village, that the university has now claimed as. So we see a lot of those at the outskirts of the Bonas area often coming in, whether you're a student or not, you're often using that football field. So these are the ways in which there's that convergence, basically, of the local, the global, and how University of Yaoundé, but that's a painting of one of our participatory action research outputs. One of our co-researchers produced that for the exhibition, and it shows representations of identity of the different people that he finds on campus from their different tribes. And this kind of speaks to Michel Lesault's hypernear. But like I said, it's like there is an alternative reading that we can consider. I wanted to use French humanities theory to actually look at this context and capture it that way, but we're trying to be African-centered with this research or do decolonial work. So I am thinking that perhaps that when I looked through these theories with a decolonial lens, I began to wonder if there's another way to think about it, aside from hyperleo, leo, and non-leo. Perhaps it's not us passing through the university. Perhaps it's the university that's in transit. And as a university that sits between the unrealized dream of post-colonial transformation and pressures from neoliberal reform, in this place you're seeing inherited French academic legacies and also a push for decolonial futures. So this is a place that sits between nation building and also a race for global competitiveness. So obviously, it should be a mess. It's not a real place. It is in transit as an institution. As much as the people within it are transiting, the university itself is also evolving. And I think that brings me to the question, what do we call a place that is all of the above and cannot really be boxed? Because it doesn't have a single identity and it's still becoming. When we are considering, oftentimes when we speak of decolonization in scholarship, we often ask a question, what would a decolonial university look like? decolonizing history look like? And I find the question absurd, as because, well, we shouldn't know what it looks like. It's kind of like participatory action research. I shouldn't know what the method would be until I have gone to the field and talked to the students who I'm working with. And if we're truly doing that, if it's truly participatory, if it's truly decolonial, it has not existed before. Because what was there before colonialism was pre-colonial. What is there after the interruption, after the unlearning and the relearning, is something else that evolves from undoing and becoming. So, yeah, looking at it like that, we could say perhaps University of Yaoundé I has a reason to be absurd and not a real place. No, next slide, sorry. We have, I must say, why does this matter? Obviously, we're in a humanities French Studies conference. Why would this matter? I have to say, though, that African universities, particularly Francophone African universities, are under-researched, and their contribution to Francophone cultural production is grossly underappreciated. We typically talk about universities for educational outputs, institutional dysfunction. Its conversations are framed around underfunding, inefficiency, and crisis. However, we're rarely studying them as symbolic spaces and how they're contributing to creating culture and creating life. If we're studying French studies and Francophone studies, well, this one is where people, the elite are formed and the culture is formed. So obviously it matters, and there is a need for that nuance. I am inviting you not only to apply Leo, non-Leo, and hyper-Leo to an African case, but also to invite you to rethink these categories together and theorize from Yaoundé, not just about it. So, in the end, is University of Yaoundé a real place? That's the new gate being constructed. That's very problematic.